Okay, so this is I'm gonna call this day 5 update on relearning to code with AI. So if you haven't seen this before, I taught myself to code about more than a decade ago and have not written a line of code in probably 8 or 9 years. And I've been relearning to code in the age of AI. And what we have here is a fully featured, pretty solid V1 of an app that I built in, I'm going to call it about a day and a half, last day and a half, which is pretty bananas. This is built on Ruby on Rails, which is a framework that I learned before. Obviously, it's been a long time, but the basics are coming back to me as I do this. And primarily, I've been leveraging Cursor's code generation. I would say 95 plus percent of all the code in this app was written originally by Cursor. And then, I would edit it or tweak it or provide feedback in the chat. But I wrote almost none of the code in terms of actually just typing out code or coming with the documentation. We'll give a quick tour of the app because I think it's pretty cool. The basic idea here is this is a way to kind of automatically nudge conversations with different groups of people that you want to stay in better touch with or have deeper conversations with. So the idea is you create these circles. It can be, your close friends, your family, just you and your partner, or more diffuse networks, your long orbit friends, your Twitter, your Blue Sky buddies, those sorts of things. And basically it uses AI to build out a queue of conversation prompts. So it will just essentially, right now it just does email, but I think I'm planning to use Twilio and probably other APIs to use different mediums. But yeah, the idea is like on any given frequency, it sends a Spark, and a Spark is just a sort of a conversation starter. So it's inspired a bit by some of these conversation decks. In particular, I really like the one by Esther Perel, where you just draw a card and it asks you something to talk about. And I think these prompts are really cool for sparking deeper conversations. This is called Get Sparks. It's live. I guess you can use it. Probably has some bugs, but don't break it. But it is actually fully functional right now. So you can go and you can create these circles. This circle has basically a bunch of members, so you can invite a new member. You can do this one. Let's just say close friend at example.com. This is not obviously not gonna receive this, but so it sends the invitation, it tracks the pending. I can resend the invitation, I can create a new invitation. I need to have a button here to go back to the circle. But anyway, when you go to that circle, you should see pending invitations, right? Which you can view. When that person accepts it, they'll show up here. So let's see. I think we have some of these that have some other members. Oh, maybe I didn't make any in production. Yeah, I didn't make any yet. I'll add some of those, but I don't really want to go through the flow of actually accepting an invitation, but it all works. You can accept the invitation via email, create an account, and then you're automatically added to the circle. The circle has an owner, which would be me in this case, and you would be a member, right? So there's roles associated with the circle. Like the circle owner can do a bunch of things that a member can't. But the basic functionality here is there's this thing called Sparks, and there's basically a queue of these Sparks. So it says, if you had the opportunity to get a message to a large group of people, what would you say? What's a difficult decision you've had to make, and how did you arrive at that? It's just sort of deep queue of conversation starters. And this queue is totally editable. Order it. It's going slow, I think, because I'm for screen recording, but it's pretty smooth to just reorder it. You can remove things out of the queue. You can add a new topic to discuss. That gets added there, and you can reorder that. So anyway, you just have this queue of interesting topics, and then basically at this given interval, and this is all editable, so you can say weekly, daily, or monthly. Weekly on every Sundays, monthly on the first of the month at 9 a.m. New York Eastern time. This is all basically the cadence of how often you get it, and that's editable. And then it sends the next spark out of the queue. So December 15th at 9 a.m. for this one, which is weekly every Sunday at 9 a.m. It's going to send me and all the members of this circle the top of the queue, right? And right now it's just an email. So it basically emails everyone, and it sets the reply to so that it removes itself out of the conversation if you hit reply all. So the idea is that it's not going to actually record these conversations because they're meant to be deep private conversations. It just gets the thing started, right? And just gives you just that little kind of AI enhanced nudge to have more important, deeper conversations. And so I'm saying the word AI here. So far, I haven't really spoken much about AI. These are all generated. I just hooked up a basic API connection to Claude. And so these are generated by just Claude. And then the cool thing is you can add like some topical context here. These ones are just generated as like a very basic, just generate some conversation starters for creating deeper connection. I forget exactly what I said, but it's very generic. But you can make it quite specific, right? You can say, this is for close friends like to talk about ethics, philosophy, and history. No politics, please. Don't be afraid to ask deep questions or funny ones. So you can save that. And this is savable for each individual circle, right? So if you have one for friends, family, etc., you can give it that context, and then you click generate sparks. And damn, we have an error here, which is a bummer, but I'll fix it. But basically, you hit generate sparks, and it creates a bunch of new ones. Yeah, so it actually worked, which is cool. So I'm not sure what that error is. This is that, but you can see it. What do you think? Yeah, so something's going on here. That's funny. But this worked. So this actually took this additional context, wrapped it in a call to Claude AI, and generated, in this case, 5 new sparks and adds them to the top. So profound realizations about the nature of reality. If you had to get a silly tattoo. So you see it's blending these different topics really seamlessly. Wow, something is really going on here. But the good news is it's still working. So that's good. But yeah, I think that's so cool to just, and then you can just keep hitting that. Right now, I have it rate limited per user because obviously this is actually going to Claude's API and it costs money. So you can only do this, I think, 10 times per user per day, which again, that was super cool to be able to generate all that. And then all of this daily checker to go across every single circle in the entire app and queue up the conversations at the right time, in the right time zone, all that sort of stuff. That's all happening in the background. I have background jobs set up with Sidekick. This is deployed live on Heroku. It's pretty, and then you can send it. As one minor feature is you don't have to wait for this. You can go ahead and send, and it'll just send the top one right out of there. So I can send it right now. Let's see if that'll work. Yeah. So that's going into a background job, and it should show up here right now. So that was, yeah, it's really good. But you could be reincarnated as one historical figure, right? So that looks like we have to refresh the page. That should be taken off, and that'll come down here for the one that was previously sent. And boom, right there. I just got that email from Sparks. So pretty cool. Yeah, you can create your own. Pretty amazingly full featured app. You can update your information here. You can change your password. You can delete your account. You can all kind of stuff here. Some things I want to add is option to circle the SMS. That would be a little tricky, but we'll just queue up into a group chat. Maybe that might have to be WhatsApp or something like that. We're going to play around a little bit, but it's pretty amazing to me that this was built in basically, I'm going to say like about a day and a half. I spent the first couple days messing around with Next.js and then just relearning like the very basics of getting Ruby installed. But yeah, Cursor for so much of this stuff, and it's pretty unbelievable. The superpowers that I discovered that were pretty amazing so far have been the composer, where you can basically just have it write code. And it will generate code across a bunch of different files. So when I was writing the code to handle the global script that's going to go through every single circle and check whether or not it needs to send a Spark today and then queue that all up, I basically just described that just like I did just now in English. And then I told it first to outline a strategy and then give me that first. And then it gave me that. And I gave it some feedback on this. And then it just generates these code suggestions here. And you can see these are like clickable. So you can just basically, it generates these as to dos and you just say, and it's just updating all this code across your entire file. Pretty freaking cool. The other thing that's pretty amazing is so this is all using Tailwind CSS, and I don't know anything about Tailwind CSS. It got popular, like really popular, right as I stopped coding. I've never used it, and all I have been doing is telling Claude, "Hey, fix this using Tailwind classes and make it nicer, blah, blah, blah," like just using words. It does a great job of that. It generated all of these icons based upon just like words that I told it to. Yeah, generally very impressed with Claude. The other thing that was a superpower, thanks to everybody on Twitter who mentioned this. So in this composer, when you're talking to it, you can do at web, and anything that you type in there, it will then check on the internet as well. It's a pretty common thing I was finding originally is that some of the AIs don't always have the most up-to-date documentation, right? So you can just say at web, paste in a specific GitHub link or something like that. If you think that it maybe is you're getting errors that look like it might be using something like that, you can just say check this first, right? I just grabbed a random GitHub link, but it'll go there and it'll check through the directory. I don't know how deep it searches, whether it goes through every single thing or what. Maybe you just want to type the README first or whatever, but um, pretty incredible how useful it is to be able to solve stuff by just typing at web or at the GitHub or something like that to have it like re-update with the latest documentation. Once I started using that, I did not get caught in any of these loops, which I did in the first couple of days where it just basically wasn't able to figure out what the latest documentation was. But yeah, and I will say there have not been very many issues that have taken more than one or two iterations with Claude to resolve. I think there's one thing right now, which is something to do with turbo and stimulus and background jobs. That it seems like there's a bunch of things that can't solve everything because some things just are incompatible right now. And I think that's what the issue is there. But overall, very impressed with of Cursor to create superpowers. I think this much code would have taken me probably 2 weeks instead of 2 days to get it all working in production and everything. Yeah, pretty cool. I'm psyched about it.